My name is Margaret. I'm 82 years old. Listen carefully. I don't say that to sound dramatic. I say it because when you reach my age, you understand something very plainly. There isn't much room left for wasted years. And if I could hand you back the time you're about to lose after 50, I would. I truly would. But I can't. What I can do is sit here, in this quiet house, and tell you where most of it goes. Almost everything you're chasing right now, the approval, the recognition, the small victories, the arguments, the perfection, it will stop mattering sooner than you think. Not because you fail, not because you give up, because life narrows. If you're younger than me, listen closely. If you're my age, take a seat next to me. Today I want to talk about the things that quietly drain the second half of your life. The things that seem reasonable, even responsible, till one day you realize they cost you years. There are 7 of them, in my opinion anyway. And the last one, that's the one most people defend the hardest. If any of this feels familiar, tell me in the comments. I read them. Slowly. But I read them. The first waste of time after 50 is competing with other people. You would think we'd outgrow that by midlife, but we don't. We just make it quieter. At 54, I still compared my house to my neighbors, my savings to my brother's, my vacations to the ones I saw in Christmas letters. It wasn't loud jealousy. It was subtle. A little tightening in my chest. A quiet feeling of being behind. The strange part is, I didn't even want what they had. I didn't want a bigger kitchen. I didn't want a second property. I didn't want their social circles. I just didn't want to feel lesser. By the time I reached 70, I realized something embarrassing. No one was measuring me. The race I thought I was in existed only in my own head. And while I was running it, I missed moments that didn't look impressive but actually mattered. Competing steals presence. It replaces it with comparison. The second waste of time is tying your identity to your usefulness. For the 5 years when someone asked who I was, I answered with what I did. Teacher, mother, organizer, volunteer, the reliable one. When I retired at 63, people stopped asking for my opinion as often. The phone rang less. Meetings continued without me. I didn't know who I was in a room where no one needed anything from me. That frightened me more than I expected. So I kept busy, overcommitted, joined committees I didn't care about, filled my calendar so I wouldn't have to sit with that uncomfortable question. Who am I when I'm not useful? It took me years to understand that usefulness and worth are not the same thing. But I spent a long time confusing them. The third waste of time is finishing things that no longer fit your life. We were raised to believe quitting is weakness. Finish what you start. Be disciplined. Push through. So I did. I stayed in friendships that had turned cold because we had history. I kept attending gatherings that left me drained because I'd always gone. I finished books I hated just to say I'd finished them. At 58, I volunteered for a project I secretly resented. It lasted 2 years. 2 years of polite smiles and tight shoulders. For what? To avoid disappointing someone who barely remembers my name now. After 50, time is not theoretical anymore. It's visible. You feel it in your knees, in how fast holidays return. Spending it on things that no longer nourish you. That's expensive. The fourth waste of time is doing things because you feel you're supposed to. This one is delicate. There are real obligations in life. Illness, family crises, responsibilities we cannot avoid. But I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the extra ones. The social invitations you dread. The favors for people who never show up for you. The traditions that stopped meaning anything years ago. At 60, I hosted Thanksgiving out of habit. I was exhausted. My children would have happily ordered takeout and played board games. but I felt I should do it properly. Should is a heavy word. I lived under it for decades. By the time I realized I had a choice, my energy wasn't what it used to be. The fifth waste of time is needing to be right. Oh, I was good at this one. I could argue calmly, logically, thoroughly. My husband and I once didn't speak properly for 3 days over a minor financial decision. I don't even remember what it was about. I only remember the silence at dinner. He passed away at 71. I would gladly lose every argument we ever had if it meant one more ordinary dinner across from him. Being right rarely improves a relationship. It just inflates your pride for a few hours, and pride is a very thin blanket when the house is quiet. The sixth waste of time is tolerating people who drain you because you feel guilty creating distance. There are people who leave you lighter, and there are people who leave you smaller. For years, I kept certain relationships out of habit. Shared history, obligation, fear of seeming unkind. After every lunch with one particular acquaintance, I came home tired. Not physically, just depleted. But I told myself she needed me. Eventually, I understood something uncomfortable. Staying where you feel diminished doesn't make you generous. It makes you absent from your own life. After 50, your energy is no longer endless. You begin to notice who restores it and who quietly consumes it. And then there's the seventh waste of time, expecting people to become who you wish they were. This one took me the longest to accept. I waited for certain family members to become more attentive, more expressive, more consistent. I kept thinking, they'll change. They'll realize. Years passed. They didn't. And holding on to that expectation kept me in a constant state of disappointment. There's a difference between having standards and refusing to see reality. When someone shows you who they are, repeatedly, believing a future version of them instead of the present one costs you peace. The turning point for me wasn't dramatic. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was folding laundry, sunlight through the window. Ordinary. And I suddenly understood that more of my life was behind me than ahead. Not in a tragic way. Just mathematically. I thought about the arguments, the comparisons, the obligations, the waiting, and I realized how much of it had felt urgent at the time. None of it feels urgent now. What can't be fixed is the time I gave away to things that didn't deserve it. I cannot retrieve the afternoons spent worrying about other people's opinions. I cannot reclaim the years I postponed simple joys because they didn't look productive. I cannot undo the silence I chose over softness. Time does not return for corrections. So if you're listening, and I hope you are, I'm not telling you what you must do. I'm telling you what I noticed too late. Life after 50 isn't about expanding. It's about refining. You begin to see that attention is your most precious currency. Where you place it determines the quality of your remaining years. If any of this resonates, let me know in the comments. I'd truly like to hear what you've learned in your own life. Sometimes reading your stories reminds me we're all figuring this out together. If you found value here, you can like this video. Subscribe if you'd like to keep having these quiet conversations with me, and share it with someone who might need to hear it while there's still time. I'm 82 now. I don't know exactly how many years I have left. None of us do. But I do know this. The second half of life is too short to spend on things that were never meant to matter.